Welcome to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Coram. I'm your host today, and today our guest is Chuck Cummings. Chuck, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Lynn.
Well, we thank you for coming. I know we wanted to have you on the show because you're such an institution around Brattleboro. So let's start out by you telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, what brought you to town.
I came to Vermont in 1956, was married in 1960. I'm a widower. I have 3 children, 2 of whom live here in Brattleboro. And I practiced law but retired last October and am enjoying it.
Good. And I understand from reading the paper and the write-ups on you when you did retire that you came to Brattleboro reluctantly because you were from down in Massachusetts, and John Christensen invited you here and you told him
well, it goes, goes something
so
like that.
Go?
But really, I came up to Wilmington to visit my roommate in college who was building Sitzmark, a ski lodge over there back in 1956. And I met John Christensen, and he was just starting out in practice. He'd been in practice by himself for a couple of years, and he asked me if I would come up here and practice with him. And I said, no way was I going to come to this small town. And we continued to see one another, and he continued to ask me, and finally I said, yeah, it really would be a challenge and fun. So that's what I did.
Okay. And what area of the law did you specialize in? What was your forte?
Well, starting off, I did everything.
Yeah.
And all sorts of criminal and civil work. And it was fun and interesting. But I was young and eager. It finally developed in later years into a lot of estate planning and trust work. And that's what I ended up doing for the last 20 years or so, primarily, and business work. And I did some municipal work, too. I represented the town of Vernon for well over 40 years, and that was a challenge in many ways, but very interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know, I wanted to get into all the things that you helped guide in the beginning. And the Vernon Select Board, I think, was one of the major ones, but there were others.
Well, yes, Lynn, there were. One that I'm very proud of was putting together the fellows who formed Rescue, and that has been very successful.
Well, before Rescue was in place, what service was there in town?
Well, there was a rescue squad, and it was with the fire department.
Oh, I see.
And the fellows who formed Rescue, Inc. had been former members of, most of them, of the rescue squad of the fire department. And they broke off, and they were ski patrol people, too.
So they had some of that emergency training.
Oh, they had a lot of it.
Yeah. Now, was the fire department paid back then, or was it all volunteer?
Oh,
Do you remember?
it was both.
Both. A good mixture of both?
Yeah, well, there was more paid than volunteer.
So, starting Rescue, what were some of those challenges?
Well, the biggest challenge was convincing the town that there was space for 2 rescue squads, because the selectmen did not look kindly on the formation of Rescue, Inc. In fact, they tried to stop it because it was be in competition, they felt, with the fire department. Of course, it wasn't, but they thought it would be.
And Rescue is not just the town of Brattleboro. You had to sell the idea to a large number of towns.
No, we didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay.
We started off in Brattleboro.
Okay.
It has grown over the years to incorporate many towns, but it was a Brattleboro operation initially.
Now, you know the law. Was there a law passed that towns must provide a rescue, ambulance service?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not you're aware of? Okay. We'll cut that part out.
No.
Okay, I wondered if towns, if that was a requirement, the towns had to meet.
I've never heard of it.
Okay. So now you also were very involved in the hospitals. You've been always supportive of the hospital.
Well, I think it's important that
I
any
mean,
community has a good hospital,
yeah,
and without it, it's not going to be a good community.
yeah.
So yes, I've always supported the hospital. I was on its board for 11 years, which is a long time.
That's a lot of support, yeah.
But Thompson House also, which is adjacent to the hospital, and Mutual Aid, which is the nursing home, Thompson House, and I was on that board much, much too long, for 52 years.
52 years.
I was on the board when Thompson House was down on Harris Place, and its fire escape from the second floor was a canvas chute in which the patients used to have to get in and slide down.
I can't imagine doing that with nursing home people.
Well, it was more than a nursing home. It cared for people. There were a lot of mothers who went there and had children. And you know some of the children that were born there on Harris Place.
So was the Thompson House that building right at the very end of Harris Place? Where was it?
No, it would be where part of Richard's buildings are behind First Vermont Bank.
So it got raised. And then,
A number of houses got raised there. But that's where it was, and that's where I first went on the board. We met down there, and I was one of two men on the board. They were all women in town. Mutual Aid was made up generally of women.
Mutual Aid, we don't have, that's been absorbed, those duties into other things. What did Mutual Aid do? I mean, it sounds like you help each other is what the title sounds like.
Right. It helped those who needed help.
So it didn't matter your age?
No.
Okay. So it just was there for people.
And it
who
evolved
know.
into a nursing home.
I see. And when did the Thompson House move up behind the hospital?
In 1957.
57. Uh-huh. So that's been there. That's been a real important piece of Brattleboro to have that service for people.
I think it has.
Yeah.
And I think it's done well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you also were in town when 91 went through. What kind of impact did that have on the town?
Well, 91 started before I came to town, but I was here when it broke through Weston Avenue, which really was thought to be a great detriment to the town because it would make two towns, West Brattleboro and Brattleboro, and there was great fear among some that this was very bad. It didn't evolve that way. But I think I-91 has brought with it lots and lots of changes. It's brought a lot of people up from the southern part of the country, southern part of New England anyway, and New York and New Jersey. And that in itself has changed the makeup of Brattleboro. Main Street changed. The whole town changed.
The whole town changed. Yeah, because before that, everything had to go through Main Street on Route 5.
Right.
And
I can remember a selectman who was a merchant saying, it's the death of the stores on Main Street. Of course,
that didn't work out either.
that didn't work out.
But the argument is people just keep rolling on by. They don't have to go in and stop. But the traffic must have been quite heavy on Route 5 through Main Street before 91 went through.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It took a while to come from Greenfield, well, not on Main Street alone, just on Route 5, to come from Greenfield to Brattleboro.
Took a while.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And then then you had to follow that all the way up if you wanted to get into the ski areas. Now, the ski areas were they predominant in the decision to run that interstate the way they did at all? I mean, what made it come up the eastern spine as opposed to the western spine of the state? Do you know?
I wasn't active enough politically to tell you the answer to that. I guess probably...
I think running along the river might have been easier construction-wise.
Of course, George Aiken lived in Putney.
That might be a hint.
I don't know. I'm just looking backward.
Okay. And a lot of people did move into town or saw that they could live here and have easy access to getting to their work if it was south of here. And so that helped expand. But the town of Brattleboro the population has stayed the same.
Well, in
And
fact,
that's interesting.
in fact, Lynn, it's decreased in the most recent census. Not by much, but we got a lot of bedroom towns around us.
Yeah.
I think Dummerston's increased. Certainly, Guilford has.
So people are living there, but using I think even the county has gone down a little bit in population.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and we are the oldest county in the state.
Yes.
By average age. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that's evolved. So, now let's talk about the law. That's been instrumental in your life. And what was it like to practice when you started? You said you had to do everything, and then you started to.
Yeah. Well, of course, the court system has changed a great deal over the years, and more recently, the legislature has seen fit to create different courts, and I don't think that has worked to our advantage. I know there are a lot of people who think it has, but I don't.
Well, let's step back before we go on, because today we have district court, which is the new building, relatively new. It's 20 years old now.
Yes, it's the new building.
Yeah, because district court used to be where the selectmen meet.
Yeah, well,
in
that was
the 70s.
That
80s.
was really the municipal court.
It was called
then
municipal
it became
district.
the district court.
And they handled the criminal. They handled, because there wasn't a family court, right?
There was no family court, and
Everything went through municipal court.
no, a lot of it went through the Superior Court, what we call the county court
Which is up in Newfane.
in Newfane, and the creation of the family court took away from
Superior.
the jurisdiction of the Superior Court,
Okay.
which I think has not served us well.
Because we underutilized the facility in Newfane, do you think?
Well, I think the Superior Court handled the family matters sufficiently and properly, and I don't see the need for the family court. I think it's just one more layer.
Okay. And today we have 4 courts that I'm counting in Vermont. We have family, district, superior, and supreme.
And probate.
Forgot probate. Okay. So we have 5 separate court entities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And district court handles criminal and
and that
traffic
used to be,
tickets. Is there a traffic ticket court too? I don't know.
I don't know whether there is or not. I haven't had one for a long time.
Yeah.
But the Superior Court used to handle, all the criminal matters.
Oh, they did.
Oh, sure. And all the family matters.
And all business matters, business
Right,
corporations.
all civil was in the Superior Court.
So what did the municipal court handle then?
Minor traffic violations, some criminal, minor criminal, and municipal violations.
Municipal violations. Was it staffed with a judge that the people in the town chose, or was it staffed with an appointed judge? Do you remember?
I think, I'm not sure, but I think he was appointed by the governor.
By the governor. Okay. And now, Superior Court is up in Newfane, and they handle today what types of matters? The corporate.
They handle some civil
and corporate stuff.
Civil matters.
And the Supreme Court, of course, is an appellate.
Right.
If you don't like the decisions of the ones down below, you go to them.
Right. And you can do that from any of those courts.
Right, and that's the unique about Vermont, I think, too, is that you don't have stepping stones in between.
Right.
You go right to Superior Court.
Certainly in Massachusetts you have a stepping stone.
Yeah. Now, probate court is going to be interesting. What's some of the changes that might be coming down the pike on probate?
Well, Yes, the probate court is a very important court for the people.
Mm-hmm.
In Windham County, we have two probate courts, as you know, one in Bellows Falls and one here in Brattleboro. That's so in a couple of other counties too, but it's those you can see being consolidated in one way or another
With this cutbacks that they've had to do.
to affect a financial cutback.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting because you've done a lot of probate work.
Yes.
You know how busy it is.
It's very busy.
Yeah, yeah. And probate, that's just for our audience so everybody knows, probate work involves what kinds of things?
Well, estate settlements, trusts, adoptions,
Wills?
well, wills or
Estates,
estates.
yeah, uh-huh.
The allowance of wills, the probate of estates is the
Yeah.
allowance of wills. Or if you don't have a will,
If
you
you-
still go into the probate court and establish an estate.
I see. So if you've neglected doing that, they'll do it for you,
Right.
which is not a good idea.
I don't think it is. I never advocated it.
Better to take care of your matters yourself. Well, that's been a lot of changes just in the court structure, as well as we haven't talked about the number of attorneys in town. I bet you have a
I don't have
history
any
of-
idea how many there are now. When I started to practice, I knew every one of them. But then when I started to practice, I knew virtually all the lawyers in the state. There were only about 300 of us.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And now there's something over 2,000 of us. And I don't know how many there are in Brattleboro or how many there are in the
I
county.
think it's at least 50 or 60.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So it's amazing how, and the statute books, too, when you started, I think didn't take up near the space they do now.
When I started, it was one book.
One book.
It was about 3 inches thick, and I can see it vividly, but it had all the laws. And now,
It fills a shelf, a long shelf.
yes, there are a lot of volumes.
Now,
Of course, it's all annotated now, too, so it wasn't then.
what does that mean,
It
annotated?
means there are notes as to how the law has been applied.
Okay. And so you understand how they got where they got with the annotations?
No, you understand how courts have interpreted what's the law.
Uh-huh. I see. So, but that's at the heart of our system, I think, this, that the law evolves and by interpretation. That seems to be one of the things that our Constitution allows to happen.
It does. And we
Yeah.
are fortunate.
I think so, yeah, because things happen that you didn't think of.
Right.
So you have to try to make the best decision possible.
And the Constitution provided for that.
It's
for these
amazing.
changes.
It's amazing the foresight, isn't it?
Oh,
When you read it,
those people were so far-sighted.
yeah, and they didn't hem you in, where a lot of countries have that problem. Laws get down and you can't break it, you can't change it.
Right.
So
right.
I think we're fortunate at the federal, state, and the locals. Everybody sort of has evolved into that thinking process. I think it's a strength, no question about it. Now, we talked about all the organizations and community things that you've been involved in the past, and present, you haven't stopped. You're still,
Well,
at present,
One of the
going.
ones that I had a lot of fun with and is
Okay.
still going strong is the Prouty Center.
Oh,
And I
you
put
know.
together the Prouty Center
Uh-huh.
many years ago, and I thought of that when I mentioned Senator Aiken. Senator Prouty was there with Senator Aiken, and that's for whom it was named.
See, I didn't know we had a Senator Prouty. I should have known that. I didn't.
Winston Prouty was his name.
Uh-huh.
And he was a great advocate for the education and training of children with disabilities.
Uh-huh.
And he was instrumental in an act that created some federal funds, and that's how the Prouty Center got started.
And the Prouty Center used to be located up at the corner of Oak and High Street in that big white building,
Yeah,
and they're not there anymore.
that's right. Well, at first it was down in a building right next to the Green Street School.
Oh, it was.
And then we were fortunate. The parent of a boy who was a student there agreed to buy that white building you speak of on the corner of High and Oak, and let Prouty Center have it if they would pay off the mortgage sometime. And years later they did, and so they transferred the building to the Prouty Center, and then we got the building next door on Oak Street, and then we got the building next door on High Street.
That was a triangle kind of
Yes.
thing.
And then more recently, all three were sold, and they bought the former B4 building across from Memorial Park.
Yeah, and that now you say the former, wasn't that the Hicks School
Yeah.
building?
Called B4.
It was called before.
B4, yeah.
I didn't know that. So, and then did it then become the Hicks School after that?
No,
It's
no.
called before now.
It was Hicks, no.
I'm all confused.
Hicks School was called the B4 School.
The before school, okay. And then the history on that building was the Hicks School. Now, did the Hicks School start as a school for special needs children too? What was that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can't give you the history on...
Too much? Well, then it got sold to a Christian school.
Yes.
And then the Prouty Center bought it from the Christian school,
That's
I
right.
believe.
You're right.
And they're out there now. What are they calling it? Are they calling it the Prouty Center?
Oh, certainly.
Still there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've had to adapt to all the changes in the special education laws, I'm sure, on what they do and how they're funded.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
been an adaptive process.
I'm sure. I haven't been on that board for years, but...
because they used to do the work that a lot of the public schools are doing now.
Absolutely.
Because, and I think that's what's led to this adapting, where they're coming from. Yeah. Are there any other boards that we should not miss here that you've been instrumental in?
No, I said when I retired I wouldn't do any more board work, but I've gotten involved with the New England Youth Theater because I found that they take take all age children, school children, but they're taking young children and training them to be responsible individuals as well as good actors. They're giving them self-esteem, and that's something that's important. It'll take away some of the work that youth services had to undertake all these years.
I think I agree with you totally. It's phenomenal how those children help each other, work together. Their command of acting is, I think, just amazing. What Stephen Stearns has done down there has been phenomenal. And I think that is all the time we have today. But thank you so much for coming in. It's been a great interview.
Well,
bringing us up to date on stuff we didn't know.
It's awful nice to see you, and we hope to see you again soon.
Okay. And
good luck.
Thank you. And we thank you for watching. You've been watching Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Corum. I've been here with Chuck Cummings and discussing the instant how Brattleboro has developed and all that he's seen in his years here. And we also like to thank our sponsors, Media Room Productions and Stacy Subaru, and we hope you have a good day.